Exorcism is the act of driving out or warding off demons or evil spirits from persons, places, or things which are believed to be possessed or infested by them, or liable to become victims or instruments of their malice. The means employed for this purpose is basically the solemn and authoritative adjuration of the demon in the name of God or any of the higher power in which he is subject. Technically, exorcism does not actually drive out the devil or demon, but rather it places the devil or demon on an oath. In some cases, there may be more than one demon possessing a person. The word exorcism is derived from the Greek preposition ek and verb horkizo, which together mean I cause someone to swear, and refers to putting the spirit or demon on oath. Thus, exorcism invokes a higher authority to bind the offending entity in order to control it and command it contrary to its own will. However, it is noted that Christ did not perform exorcism as technically defined because he did not need to call upon a higher authority. He himself was that higher authority. Now, not only did Christ exorcise demons or unclean spirits, but he gave the same power to his disciples. He gave the power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of disease. Matthew chapter 10 verse 1. The greatest danger to the exorcist is becoming possessed by the devil or demon himself. This is the reason why the exorcist must feel as free of sin as possible and feel no secret need for punishment. An exorcism is a prayer that is performed over a person to release them from evil. When a Catholic is baptized, the exorcist will then start the process of researching the victim to determine if there are actual demons present or if the problem is merely physiological or psychological. The exorcist will ask for medical records and may even send the alleged victim to medical experts that he knows. Once possession is established, the bishop will give consent for the exorcism. This consent is critical because when the exorcist performs the rite, he needs to have the full support of the church, all the way up to the Pope. The battle is the wedge between the demon and the victim and the entire church itself. A typical exorcism may happen in the church, but will most likely take place in the victim's home. To prepare the room for the procedure, most of the furniture will be removed. Pictures and other loose items will also be taken away to prevent them from being turned into missiles by supernatural forces, and windows and doors may also be boarded over. In a Catholic ritual, the priest performing the exorcism will most likely be a senior member of the clergy, and he will bring along an apprentice priest who is learning how to perform exorcism in the future. The victim will be securely tied down, and other assistants, such as family members or friends related to the victim, may also be present in case they are needed to hold the person during violent episodes. The priest will then begin a series of prayers and rituals involving holy waters and oils. The actual exorcism can take hours, even days, and sometimes a victim may go through many exorcisms over the course of several years until they are at peace. Evil is in the world, and ignoring it does not make it go away. If you are not a believer, dealing with a possession will quickly change your entire perspective. The war between good and evil will continue to be waged, but when the battle is between a demon and individual, it will be won or lost by the exorcist. In Mark chapter 9, verses 17 to 29, the apostles have been using the authority given to them were not able to cast out a demon from a possessed boy. Jesus had to do the exorcism personally. He criticized the lack of faith and explained that some evil spirits could only come out through prayer and fasting. In Acts chapter 19, verses 13 to 17, some Jews and the 7 sons of Sceva tried to exorcise a man in the name of Jesus, who was preached by the apostle Paul. But to their disappointment, the possessed man jumped over them, giving them such a beating that they left the place naked and bleeding. First, we realize that to exorcise is a difficult job, even for the apostles themselves, who were authorized by Jesus personally. Now, regarding those who are not genuine believers, to try to give orders to an evil spirit is a very high risk that may even cause the evil spirit to take possession of them or anyone present. There are types of exorcism or deliverance. One is solemn. This term is applied to an exorcism done officially under the authority of the Catholic Church to a person possessed by evil spirits. A rigorous psychological evaluation must be conducted on the victim to establish if this is a cause of possession, diabolical influence, or to determine if it is a fraud. The victim must show the typical signs that accompany those who are possessed. Among them, the knowledge of other languages, prediction of the future, blasphemies and abhorrence of holy things such as holy water, salt or blessed oil. He may display supernatural strength, levitation, and so on. Only an authorized priest can do the exorcism following the official rite of the church. The devil or devils present in the possessed person receive orders from the exorcist to leave and never to come back in the name of Jesus Christ and the church in general, which receive from Christ the promise that the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Matthew chapter 16, verse 18. According to Canon 1172 of the Code of Canon Law, no one may illicitly perform exorcism on those who are possessed unless he has obtained particular and express permission from the local ordinary, and it decrees that this permission is to be granted by the ordinary only to priests who are outstanding in piety, knowledge, prudence, and integrity of life. Other kind of exorcism is private. The faithful of the church may say prayers of deliverance, in which they ask divine intervention to cast out the evil influence on any person, place, or object. Because of the extreme danger involved and the lack of knowledge about the enemy, it is very important to know more deeply all about the devil and his angels, and this is why the church doesn't allow exorcism to be done by anyone except by a priest officially qualified by a bishop. In 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 8 to 9, Saint Peter, the head of the apostles, exhorts us to have discipline and to be alert, because the devil, our adversary, is like a roaring lion who is prowling around, seeking for someone to devour. St. Peter tells us to resist him by remaining firm in our faith. Let us then be armed with great faith in God. Let us grow spiritually so that God will listen to our prayers of deliverance. According to our Catholic belief, demons or fallen angels retain their natural power as intelligent beings of acting on the material universe and using material objects, directing material forces for their own wicked ends. And this power, which is in itself limited and is subject, of course, to the control of divine providence, is believed to have been allowed a wider scope for its activity in the consequence of the sin of mankind. Hence, places and things as well as persons are naturally liable to diabolical infestation within limits permitted by God, and exorcism in regard to them is nothing more than a prayer to God in the name of his church to restrain this diabolical power supernaturally, and a profession of faith in his willingness to do so on behalf of his servant on earth. The chief things formally exorcised and blessing are water, salt, oil, and these in turn are used in personal exorcism and in blessing or consecrating places. For example, churches and objects like altars, sacred vessels, church bells, connecting with public worship or intended for private devotion. Holy water, the sacramental with which the ordinary people are most familiar, is a mixture of exorcised water and exorcised salt, and prayer of blessing. God is besought to endue these material elements with a supernatural power of protecting those who use them with faith against all the attacks of the devil. This kind of indirect exorcism by means of exorcised objects is an extension of the original idea, but it introduces no new principle, and it has been used in the church from the earliest ages. How does one become possessed? One is pure divine permission. Clearly, nothing happens without divine permission. But God never wills evil, suffering, or temptation. He gives us freedom and allows the existence of evil, but knows how to turn it into good. When He gives the demon his permission to torment us, He does so to strengthen us in virtue, as in the biblical example of Job, as well as of many blesseds and saints. We must keep in mind that diabolical harassment in itself has nothing to do with the state of grace of its victims. Second, subject to a curse. Here too, the victim is innocent, but there is culpability on the part of whoever caused or commissions the cause. By the word cause, I mean the intention of harming others through demonic intervention. This can be achieved in many ways: malefice or spell, binding, evil eye, malediction, and so on. The matter is serious, but we need to be on guard against misconceptions. By their nature, causes lend themselves to all sorts of abuses, especially when we consider the current escalation in the number of frauds, suggestions, manias, and more. Another is grave hardening of sin. Judas Iscariot is the classical gospel example. The many individuals who are abandoned themselves to sexual perversions, violence, and drugs fall into this group. The heinous crime of abortion aggravates this situation. Its terrible repercussions are clearly seen during exorcism, because to liberate a victim who is guilty of abortion usually requires a very long period of time. Due to the current devastation of the family and the laxity of morals, the repercussions that stem from the scourge of abortion are much more common than in the past. When we take all these factors into account, we can understand why the number of individuals stricken by evil elements has multiplied. Another is proximity to evil places or persons. This includes attending a spiritualistic session, dabbling in magic, or consulting magicians, witch doctors, and some card readers. Also practicing the occult, belonging to satanic sects, or practicing in rites that climax with black masses, and so on, put us at great risk. Another is influence of mass media, such as pornographic shows and violent horror movies broadcast by many TV stations. We witness the effects of the widespread presence of rock music, culminating in satanic rock performed in what we could easily refer to as churches or rock, such as stadiums, parks, and discotheques. We should not be surprised that today there is an explosion of these activities. A decline in faith life is directly connected to an increase in superstitions. Another is the dark areas of sin in a person's life are fertile ground for the activity of evil spirit. both sin and its byproducts, such as guilt and repression, can easily be brought under the demonic bondage. Another is basic emotional needs, which are either unfulfilled or perceived by the person as fulfilled, can leave a person vulnerable to demonic influence. The subsequent effects of these unmet needs are also easy targets for the evil spirits. Being filled and loved leads to isolation and self-rejection, which in turn are breeding grounds for evil spirits. Another is certain traumatic events in a person's life can be a doorway for satanic entrance. Another is immoral family lineage. Most parents or ancestors who were incestuous, adulterous, polygamous, bigamous, handed down and brought into the present generation to their offsprings are easy prey to demons' possession. Another is practicing of adhering occultism, practicing superstition and idolatry, and the rest of the modern occult and arts of paranormal sciences and parapsychologists. Their offsprings are easy prey by demons' possession. Another is conjurers on black magic art. Offsprings and grandchildren of black art magicians are very easy prey to evil possession. Another is charmer or enchanter on white magic. Black or white magic arts both belongs to the same agency, an evil agency. Offsprings or future generations of white magicians are easy prey by evil possession. Another is unrepentant, unforgiving, begrudging. People who deliberately refuse to reconcile, not to forgive anyone whom they have grudges, resentment, ill, feeling, hurt, and so on, are easy prey by evil forces. Or any unrepentant sinners is easy prey by evil possession, easily takes place in themselves or on their offsprings. Another is religious aberration. Offsprings of apostates are easy prey by evil forces. Also, a so-called civil marriage offsprings are easy prey by evil forces. Evil spirits enter us through many ways. In some cases, evil spirits enter an innocent victim. The victim may be an unborn baby who is cursed from the mother's womb. The curse can be from a jealous relative, friend, enemy, or even a child's own parents. Innocent victims may also include children who are not loved, who are mistreated or abused or rejection by other children, siblings, parents, and so on. The abuse can range from sexual abuse, mental abuse, or physical abuse. Those who choose evil, in other cases, an evil spirit may enter us because of involvement in evil practices such as the occult. The occult is any practice that involves ceremonies, rituals, chants, magic, or activities that are obviously not God-centered. These activities or rituals can change the course of nature, the lives of those who are involved in such practices, and of course, the innocent victims. The Ouija board is a popular occult board game, and there is also Dungeons and Dragons. Satan's main target in Dungeons and Dragons game is our youth. With Dungeons and Dragons, the most powerful and successful players are those who are magic. There is a dungeon master guide that even teaches new beginners how to communicate with the dead, cast spells, and learn to chant. The use of magic revolves around evil spirits, psychic abilities, and contacting spirits. Magic is a power that does not involve God. It is a power that is derived from such things as voodoo, sorcery, primitive religions, and Satanism. Most witches who use magic swear that they do not worship Satan, but worship the gods and the goddesses of nature. The gods and goddesses of nature are hardly Jesus Christ. Of course, they worship Satan. Do not let someone who practices this occult tell you otherwise. Many of these individuals are unknown because they blend in quite well. They can be found attending church services in every denomination, and they practice their magic on the side. If someone tells you white magic is okay, don't believe them. Use of New Age tools such as crystals, divination, astrology, tarot cards, crystal balls, reincarnation, pendulums, yoga, transcendental meditation. Those who make a pact with Satan or attend satanic services or rituals, going to seances, fortune tellers, horoscopes, or spiritualist meetings for the purpose of contact the dead. Those who use alcohol or mind-changing drugs such as LSD, cocaine, marijuana. Sex out of wedlock, active homosexuals, masturbation, adultery. Those who have an abortion. Those who try to commit suicide or have suicidal tendencies. These are the fertile grounds for possession. The following are symptoms of possessions as represented in the Roman ritual of exorcism. In most cases, a victim will have one or more of the traits listed. Victims speaks or understands unknown languages, foreign or tribal dialects without even studying the languages being spoken or heard. Victim clearly knows things that are distant or hidden. Victims can predict future events, sometimes through dreams, purporting to show that he or she is a prophet, foretells personal, private affairs, and so on. On thought, the victim is projecting strange intelligence and discussing matters and events. Victim has an intense hatred for holy things. Victim shows a physical strength far above his age or normal condition. Victim is depressed, deeply melancholic. Mind is seemingly vacant, out of consciousness, has apparent stupidity. Behavior is extremely static or extremely malevolent. Victim shows wild perniciousness with extraordinary strength. Victim is now and then thrown into paroxysms, sudden attack of a disease or sudden outburst. Victim is appearing as if he were suffering from epileptic attack. Victim's mouth is frothing or foaming, gnashing of his teeth as if he were in hysteria. In social standing, the victim claims that he or she is somebody with a prestigious personality, like a case of reincarnation. In action or movement, the victim acts or moves gracefully, impressing people that he or she is very high cultured person, and his or her voice become of varying tones, sometimes that of a baby, that of an old man, that of a young woman, as the case may be. There are types of possession. One is occasional. This type of attack is violent and destructive to the physical body of the victim, but the convulsion subsides in a short period of time. Second, indwelling. The victim is semi-permanently occupied by the possessing spirits as if he were their own house. The victim appears without danger, friendly and religious sounding. The victim wears sacramental objects and even quote the Bible and pray the rosary, but wrongfully and incoherently. Most victims of this type are women, usually those heretics adhering religious practices. Third is pernicious. The victim is violent and dangerous. He is restless. He roams around and harassing and harming people. He strips naked and extraordinarily strong. Fetters and chains when seized are broken like bread. Victims of this type of possessions are known practitioners on so-called oraciones, Diyos Amahan, San David, San Miguel, Santiago, and so on. Fourth, epileptic. The attack of this type is instant. It resembles that of epilepsy, and while he is in a state of unconsciousness, he is groaning, and words come out from his mouth with sound like that of a gift of tongues. He fumes and gnaws his teeth in seeming hysteria. Most victims of this type of possessions are those offsprings of occultists. Fifth, somnambulistic. This type of possession is very quarrelsome. It occurs when the victim is deeply asleep at night. He strolls at distant places unconscious simply because he is sleeping, and yet he manages himself correctly to the right path. Most victims of this type of possession are families of psychic healers, those who rely on dreams and those who interpret dreams. Sixth, dormant. This type of possession begins at birth or at the time of conception of the zygote in the womb. The victim looks as retarded, dumb, or idiotic, but the victim has precognitive power and sensitivity. He has possessed inborn psychic power who can recognize in advance coming of visitors, tell future events, and see things beyond normal sight. He has a type almost that of a so-called reincarnation case. The spirit seems to be that of a dead person who died 100 years ago, but whose spirit, accordingly to the proponents on teachings of reincarnation, inhabits in a certain living body. Most victims of this type of possession are families of occult circles. What are the extraordinary activities of Satan? The boundaries between one category and another are not clear-cut because there is a lot of mingling and compounding of symptoms. 1. External pain deals strictly with physical suffering. This includes the beating, scourging, and injuries caused by inexplicable pushing, falling objects, and so on, that we read about in the lives of many saints, such as the Course of Ars, St. Paul of the Cross, and Padre Pio. These occurrences are not as rare as we may think, and the demon's activity is usually confined to external activity. Internal activity, if any, is only temporary and limited to the duration of a particular disturbance. Another is diabolic possession, is the grievous form of demonic activity which allows a continuing presence of a demon in a human body. The evil symptoms do not have to be continuous but can alternate between periods of crisis and periods of rest. Possession implies intervals of temporary suspension of mental, intellectual, affective, and volitive faculties. Symptoms can include the knowledge of languages unknown to the victim, superhuman strength, and the ability to know the occult or someone else's thoughts. Typically, there is an aversion to anything sacred, often in conjunction with blasphemy. There are also frauds who pose as demoniac. Therefore, we need to be extremely wary. Another is diabolic oppression. It's a ransom discomfort. We must remember that symptoms and gravity differ greatly case by case. This oppression can strike health, job, affections, relationship with others, and so on. Its symptoms include unexplainable rages and a tendency to complete isolation. Oppression can affect both individual and groups, even very large groups. Another is diabolic obsession. Causes an almost split personality. Our will remains free, but it is oppressed by obsessive thoughts. The victim experiences thoughts that may be rationally absurd, but of such a nature that he is unable to free himself. The obsessed person lives in a perpetual state of prostration, with persistent temptation to suicide. We must be aware that the temptation to commit suicide is also present in diabolic possession and diabolic oppression. Another is diabolic infestation. In this case, the malefic activity is directed towards places, houses, offices, stores, fields, also directed to objects like cars, pillows, mattresses, dolls, and also directed towards animals. Therefore, it is only indirectly affects man. Origen tells us that the early Christians resorted to exorcism in this situation. Another is diabolic subjugation. The term indicates a voluntary pact, implicit or explicit, with Satan, by which we submit to the lordship of the demon. There are also involuntary times with the evil one, These cases fall into the preceding categories, especially the most severe position. Let us talk about exorcism and the multiple personality disorder in our Catholic perspective. We would define exorcism as a religious attempt using prayers, religious symbols, and orders to expel an evil entity. As soon as there is an attempt at expulsion, with a perception that there is something there to expel, it is an exorcism. Those working with multiple personalities disorder patients frequently encounter unusual phenomena that are the lasting after effects of their disparate adaptation to severe and chronic childhood abuse. The most striking of those phenomena are more common with multiple personalities disorder patients reporting severe ritual abuse, especially satanic. Those same patients often have personalities like mimicking demons. There are criteria that could be used to distinguish a demonic mental personality disorder personality from a situation of true possession. The burden of reasonable proof is on the person alleging the presence of the demonic. If someone is diagnosed as having multiple personalities disorder based on other personalities, a demonic presentation should be presumed to simply be another personality, unless clearly demonstrated otherwise. Multiple personalities disorder personality will have identifiable time of formation and functional rule within the personality system consistent with the trauma as it was occurring. Multiple personalities disorder or MPD specific therapy will result in psychologically consistent change in that personality with improvement over time in the presence of a healthy therapeutic alliance. As the personality is worked with, emotions such as rage will be clearly human in origin, and if the personality is more developed, there will be the clear existence of state-dependent learning. Knowledge possessed will be appropriate to the role and function of the personality. Unusual phenomena will be those seen and reported in at least some other patients clearly diagnosed with MPD, and will follow the general patterns for those phenomena. Unusual phenomena consistent with true positions would be clearly outside the natural order, or would be situations not reasonably accounted for by science. There are strange phenomena that are frequently seen and observed in multiple personalities disorder patients, or MPD. They are accepted as MPD dynamics and are often present with some personalities and absent with others. In different patients, they may or may not be linked with a subjective sense of being evil and are clearly linked both to trauma and attempts at adapting to that trauma. This phenomena would include at least the following. 1. Susceptibility to hypnosis. Unusual ability to cause others to enter hypnotic or trance states. Second, body memories having physical characteristics. These are reenactments of past trauma and follow the same characteristics as the classic stigmata phenomena. They may appear and disappear without external manipulation and may include rashes, welts, cuts, burns, blood, swelling, and significant physiological changes. Third, apparent telepathy, clairvoyance, unexplained knowledge. This may reflect hyperacute senses, such as hearing thoughts reflected in the movements of the larynx, photographic state-dependent memory, extremely acute awareness of others' body language and visual cues. Unusual mental feats are also common. Fourth, physical strength beyond ordinary perception of what is humanly possible. Fifth, highly accelerated healing, control of bleeding, and ability to regulate physiological states in ways not normally considered possible or under conscious control. Sixth, ability to cause in an observer a sense of cold, evil, or threat. Seventh, acts of self-harm and extreme self-mutilation, hatred of God and religious objects. 8. Ability to go for long periods with neither food or sleep. And last, selective, personality-specific anesthesia and the blocking and normal pain stimuli. It should be noted that many unusual phenomena that are considered in popular culture to be psychic or otherwise unexplainable are often based on the skills and illusions of magicians, the use of various forms of trance states, suggestibility, intentional fraud, and so on.